I'm Nick Pettit.
I'm Jason Seifer.
And you're watching the Treehouse Show, your weekly dose of internets where we talk about all things web design, web development, and more.
In this episode, we'll be talking about Sandboxed iFrames, the progress element, responsive screenshots, and more.
Let's check it out. First up is Sandboxed iFrames, which is a blog post over on the HTML5 Rocks blog. It's called Play Safely in Sandboxed iFrames. The article is actually from January of 2013, but it's still pretty fascinating. Basically, iframes allow you to embed other web pages into a web page in a frame or an iframe. So you can put this wherever you want on the page, but the problem is that iframes can do things like alerts or geolocation requests, basically anything that a normal web page can do. The sandbox mode allows you to basically put a stop to anything that might be intrusive to the page that the iframe is being embedded on. So through a set of attributes, you can use, through a set of values on the sandbox attribute, you can turn certain things on and off. So for example, you could allow or disallow form submissions, you could allow or disallow pop-ups, and so on. So if you have a website with a lot of iframes, this is pretty handy.
A lot of geologic references in that. HTML5 Rocks, Sandbox. Lots of stuff going on there. Next up, we have a project called Angular Translate. If you're using AngularJS and you need to internationalize your application, this plugin is the way to go. Now, it is super simple to use, as you would expect from basically everything we cover on here. Here's how it works. Let's say you have a different translation and different blocks of text that need to be translated. So you can see on the right here, it says, hello, this is a paragraph. And over on the left is the code to translate it from English and German. So you can see right here, hello, this is the paragraph, English and German, and boom, we can go back and forth extremely easily. Now, there is a wonderful API that you can use to go through and put all of these translations in place, and it's already in use quite a bit by a bunch of different companies. It seems like a really great project, so if you do need to internationalize the front end side of your application, go ahead and check this out.
I don't think that was a paragraph. It looked more like a sentence to me. I don't think that word means what they think it means.
Well, a sentence can be part of a paragraph.
I think they need to use Hemingway to know for sure.
Oh, we talked about that on the last Treehouse Show. You should catch up if you haven't.
Next up is this really cool website. I'm going to butcher this pronunciation. It's called Liquidapsive.
Liquidapsive.
Thank you, Jason. I don't know where I'd be without you.
Probably in the same place, but alone.
And cold.
Yeah. Dead inside.
This site allows you to tell the difference between adaptive, liquid, responsive, and static layouts. So I've come out of full screen here, and if I click on static, the layout will change. And if I resize my browser window, it will show you what a static layout looks like. It doesn't change at all when you resize the browser because it's using explicit pixel values. Now, if I change it over to responsive, that's a little bit more typical of what you would expect of a modern website. The layout uses media queries to adjust itself as it is being resized.
Wow, I'll get motion sickness watching that.
You can also check out adaptive and liquid, which are a little bit more confusing. Responsive and static are pretty well known. A liquid layout doesn't change as the browser resizes. It just adjusts based on percentage widths. So it's a little bit better than static, but not quite as good as responsive. In fact, responsive layouts are actually liquid layouts with the addition of media queries. So as you can see, it changes when it hits a certain media query breakpoint. There's also adaptive, so I'll resize that and show you what that looks like. Rather than using any kind of percentage widths, it uses pixel widths, but it does still use the media queries that a responsive layout uses. So very cool website, helps demonstrate the difference between all these different terms. definitely be sure to check it out if you are new to web design.
Yeah, and feel free to tweet us your pronunciation of the name Liquidapsive. Don't let our pronunciation knock you off. Next up, we have a project called pageres. This is a really interesting command line tool for generating screenshots of different resolutions of a web page. Now, super easy to use. You can see the command right here, pageres, then you give it your URLs and the different sizes that you want. Now, this works as a command line app. On the back end, it uses Phantom.js to generate these different screenshots. Now, something that's super cool about this is they give you instructions for using it with Google Analytics. So what you can actually do is if you have a website in your Google Analytics account and you're wondering what different resolutions access your site and what it looks like, you can export that from Google Analytics, and then they have a quick little command line shortcut to import that into pageres, take a picture of your site using all of the common different resolutions that are already using your site. So really cool tool. You can check it out in the show notes at youtube.com/gotreehouse or search for us in iTunes at the Treehouse Show.
Next up is Progress.js. We're making a little progress through the show.
I wish we were making a little more progress in our personal lives.
If I refresh the page here, you can see what Progress.js looks like. It kind of made a loading bar across the entire screen. If I scroll down, here's a couple more examples. So it loaded in these pictures from Pinterest. Pretty Pinteresting there.
Ooh.
You can hit the replay demo as many times as you want. It's totally free. Here is an input form, which demonstrates how Progress.js can improve the user experience of forms. So if I start typing something in, it will autosave, and it shows you a little progress bar right above the form to show you what that might look like. Same thing for text areas. So how does it work? Well, it uses HTML and CSS. You can basically generate the progress bars with the HTML, and then you can style them however you want with CSS. So this is a JavaScript project, obviously, Progress.js, and you can go ahead and download it and include it on your site if you need to make some progress bars.
Oh, it's very nice. It's just like YouTube, that little progress bar that loads at the top of the screen.
Mm-hmm.
I dig it. Speaking of digging it, there's a project called Dug.js, which we're covering next. This is a JSONP to HTML script. Now, if you are doing any requests or working with JSONP at all, it can be a little bit difficult to do. So the reason that we use JSONP is, let's say you have a website and you want to access somebody else's API and use the JSON on your own site. Well, due to the same origin policy of web browsers, you can't do that, so you have to use something called JSONP, which wraps that JSON in an anonymous function that you send in. Now, this project, Dug.js, will let you very easily take that JSON that you get back from a JSONP source and wrap it in some HTML. So all you have to do, you can see this script tag right here. You call this Dug method, you give it the endpoint, and then inside this template key is a little string that is an HTML template. Now you have some options for iterating through. This is the Dribble API, so it gives you an array of shots. So it'll iterate through the shots right here and then put the images right there in that image 400 URL. So you can break up your template into multiple lines, and here is a demo of the code running right on the page right there. Wow. So as you expect, it supports a bunch of different parameters. It's very, very easy to use. You can download it right now. Pretty cool project. I dig it.
Dug it. Next up is Grid, which is a simple guide to responsive design made by Adam Kaplan. Look at that. I know that because his name is right there. Very convenient, Adam.
I thought his name was Grid.
If we scroll down, you can see it's just exactly what it says on the tin. Why bother with responsive? Well, it tells you exactly why you should bother with responsive, because it's the year 2014 and there's a lot of mobile devices out there.
014, baby.
So you should make sure that you support them. In fact, need a citation on this, but I believe that there are now more mobile web browsing devices out there than desktops. So you should definitely pay attention to responsive web design. It goes on to describe how to use min-width media queries and a whole bunch more stuff. Explains the CSS box model, which can be pretty confusing for web newbies, so definitely check that out if you are new to web design. Lots of other cool stuff here. If you're not familiar with responsive web design, this is a very good guide to get you into it.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with responsive design, go watch every single episode of the Treehouse Show because we talk about it basically nonstop. Next up, we have a project called North. North is meant to be a living document that goes through and talks about different standards when running web-based properties. What does that all mean? Well, it goes through the different roles inside of the development process, different kinds of development processes, like you might have heard of Agile development, Scrum, things like that. Even talks about version control, what you should be doing, how you should be releasing your features and tagging them. And this is just a huge, huge document that goes through prototyping, performance, testing, QA, everything that you're going to need. And it even talks about a lot of the things we talk about here on the Treehouse Show. Now, obviously, we can't go through this incredibly awesome document, but we do recommend you check it out in the show notes. And that is about all we have today. Nick, who are you on Twitter?
I am at NickRP.
And I am at JSeifer. For more information on anything we talked about, check out our show notes at youtube.com/GoTreehouse, or search for us in iTunes, and don't forget to rate us. We're the Treehouse Show.
And of course, if you'd like to see more videos like this one about web design, web development, mobile, business, and so much more, be sure to check us out at teamtreehouse.com. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next week.